Hey, this is Liz, and you're listening to the SouthCack Syndicate Podcast.
Episode 8.
You got it right this time.
I know, it seems like we've done so many of these, but it's really 8. Wait till we get to like 80 or 800.
Yeah, 58. You'll have to...
That'll be like a year's worth of podcast.
58? Yeah.
Well, a year and some change.
Yeah. Which we might double up some.
Like 2 podcasts a week.
Maybe.
If the content is relevant.
Yeah, if we don't run out of stuff.
No, so today, episode 8. Let's see, last week we had Rabbit used cars on, which I've gotten a lot of feedback on. What a funny guy.
Oh, yeah?
What a funny guy.
I was editing that after the fact, still laughing.
I listened to it, cooking breakfast, like a couple of days later, and I'm just cracking up.
Yeah.
That was a funny episode. Had some good, valuable content, though, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was different. It was a different episode for sure.
Yeah, so one of the gold nuggets from last episode was celebrate your wins and have your buddies celebrate your wins.
I think that could probably be a nugget in every episode.
Oh, yeah.
You know what?
Hang on to the guys that celebrate your wins.
That's right. That's right.
So today, episode 8, we've got a great friend of mine, Mr. James Myers. Welcome to SouthCack Syndicate Podcast, James.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on episode number 8.
There you go.
I'm there from the beginning when nobody's listening.
That's right.
And then once you get to 80, they'll have to come back, for the good stuff.
Yeah, or when we have you back on, on 28, we can say, oh, go watch 8.
Like I have any kind of insight worth 2 podcasts for.
Hey,
let's get serious.
Look at us.
He just said when nobody's listening now. I'll have you to know we have over 1,000 downloads per episode.
We have a Russia listener.
We do have the guy or girl in Russia.
That's right.
I'm asking you to hit us up. Russia.
Nothing yet. Still, you know what's going to happen? People are going to start emailing us just saying they're from Russia.
Well, you're going to have to take a picture of a Russian newspaper for that day.
Oh, there you go.
Proof of life, so to speak.
We're making it difficult. I'll just take whatever you give me.
And we will send you something from the States, from this room that we are recording in the studio in Wallace, South Carolina. So Russia, hit us up.
Bottle of 4 Roses.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll send a bottle of American bourbon.
We'll trade for some vodka.
No, we might come up with something like that. So James is a friend of mine. Like I said, he's some of you that live locally would know some of his Airbnbs on Highway 28. He is the first in Oconee County that I'm aware of to turn shipping containers into full-on stackable Airbnbs.
I don't believe I can take credit for being the first.
Okay.
I think I'm certainly the most visible, which is why
Everybody thinks you're.
But I did have some inspiration here locally.
Cool.
With some, actually, they turned out to be investors in my project later, but I believe they deserve credit for being the first.
Cool.
So they got stackable shipping container Airbnbs as well?
No, I think I'm the only
them.
one. Yeah, they had a.
Oh, I got you.
He's the first one to turn the container home into an Airbnb, into a
Got
short-term
you. So
rental.
they made a container home.
Yeah, they made one just not quite as elaborate.
Gotcha.
I'll say.
So
Cool.
we'll get into that. That's how some of you guys would know James. Background. Give me a broad stroke of James Myers for our listeners.
Where do I begin?
It was a cold and stormy night, and
Well, I mean, I fast forward to once upon a time I worked in the cruise industry. I got a job in luxury retail, sales, promotion, marketing, that type of thing, and that kind of rolled into a whole corporate career almost. That at one point I ended up looking at it and saying, wait, this is what I was trying to run away from when I came out to cruise ships.
Yeah.
And I decided that my window of opportunity was closing for me to make my own big thing, to do my own dreams
Right.
instead of just making other people rich, which I had become very good at doing that. But
or selling rich people other items.
Exactly. It goes hand in hand. It's just taking from one and putting it in the other.
That's right.
Is that air on?
Sorry. Yeah. We'll grab it after the first commercial
Gotcha.
break.
Yeah. But
how many years do you do the cruise thing?
About 11 years, 11 years total. And then I left that and ended up here in Oconee County, of all places.
So you were based out of Florida?
Correct. Born and raised in Miami, grew up in South Florida. I was living quite nomadically for that decade, but I would probably consider Fort Lauderdale my base for the last half of that. of that career. And then,
Which is where most of those cruise ships go out of, right?
Fort Lauderdale is a really big port, especially for the mega ships like the Oasis of the Seas, the
Yeah,
5,500
I think I actually
passenger.
been on that Oasis of the Seas.
Yeah, you and 7 million other people.
know, right? I know.
And that's just one sailing. Huge ship. But absolutely, you look at that thing and it makes you wonder, how on earth did people figure out how to make this float?
Yeah, it looks like it's going to tip over.
Yeah, 220,000 tons. I don't know.
How many people can fit on that ship?
Around 6,000 passengers and 2,200 crew.
Yeah. The whole inside of those ships, and I didn't realize this, the whole inside of the ship is a whole town just for the crew. They have their own nightclub. They have their own, when they're not working, they're partying, they're at dinner.
Outside of the guest.
It's the whole inside of the ship.
You're making it very romantic. If I have some ship friends who end up listening to this, they're going to be laughing.
Not that good.
They're like, oh, he just called Crew Bar a nightclub.
I'm just saying they have their own.
That's what Instagram shows you or tells you, right?
Yeah, we buy stuff from something called the Slop Chest. So that's
Gotcha.
That's
I was actually just talking to some of the. It's just my personality. I meet somebody on the ship that works there. I'm like, tell me about how this works and where do you They just disappear. You don't.
It's like Disneyland.
Yeah.
It's funny because a lot of passengers, they don't understand. Where do you guys? Do you guys stay on board at night? No,
Yes.
we all get on wave runners and near styling. The questions they come.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You didn't see the helicopter pad up top?
Yeah. Well, now some of the entertainers fly in, right?
What's it? What? Huh?
I've heard that some of the entertainers will fly in for the shows.
Yeah, fly into Tampa before they get on, but
Is that what it
definitely
is?
not onto the ship.
They stay on the ship the
Nobody
whole time?
flies in; they only fly out. So, when you have an alpha situation, is it called
Emergency.
medical emergency?
Then they fly them out. Gotcha.
But I've only witnessed that 2 or 3 times in my career. So
It's cool. So you were actually on board.
Yeah, usually they just die on board, so there's no need for the. There's actually a morgue on board.
They got a coroner and everything.
Yeah, they got a doctor. Usually, a lot of South.
The guy that
Africans,
does the chocolate art. He's also the coroner.
Food refrigeration
Yeah.
/ morgue.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. So how many countries have you been to on the cruise for part of the cruise line?
I don't know even total countries at this. It's something like 1 out of every 4.
Didn't
in
keep
the world.
track.
I mean, at what point do you stop
Yeah,
keeping track?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I always thought it was cool though. I mean, when I went on my first cruise, I was pretty young, and I was like, man, if I'd have known about this, when you're young, right out of high school or whatever, and you could experience something like that for a little while.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I'd have known this was even a possibility, I might have. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have done it, but it sounded romantic in my head because it's like, oh yeah, you work 3 months, and then you're off 3 months or something.
It all depends on your position, your contract, how long you want to work. You can extend it. I mean, you can be 2 months, you can be 10 months. What I was doing, it could be anywhere from 2 weeks to 10 months. I think 10 months was my longest stint.
I always thought it was interesting too. Every person that worked on there was from a different country or area. It wasn't like they recruited everybody from the same place.
Oh, it's like the Navy.
It's no
See
country
the world
though.
through a port window.
Yeah.
You don't actually see a lot of Americans. You find them in entertainment, maybe sometimes the child care places. What would you call that? I don't have kids, so
I don't have kids.
Daycare.
But typically it's not the way that Americans like to live, especially for that little money.
Right.
There's not that many positions where you can earn good money and still have your own cabin and everything like that. Whereas it's very communal style living, so that's why it appeals to countries like the Philippines that are very, in India that are more communal societies.
Right.
They are used to living together, eating together, and all of that. And the money they make there is much more than what they would do back home. But for Americans, it's not
the same.
So you don't really
I would
see
have done it more for the experience.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're working for 3 months straight, how much money are you spending? Is everything free on the boat?
Next to free. I mean,
Next to free.
you're not paying for most of your food and stuff like that, but you pay $1 for a beer at the crew bar or something like that.
Right.
It's cheap living. You don't have.
So you're not making a ton of money, but you're not spending a lot. So when you get off the boat, you
just depends.
depends. Yeah.
I mean,
Anyway, I thought it'd be a cool experience. I could take.
Why didn't you do it?
I was already older by then. I already had.
Why don't you do it now?
Married. Because I'm married and got kids, dude. I can't leave.
Put the whole family on it.
No.
So I read an article literally last week about a guy who retired and decided he wanted to live his retirement on a cruise ship. So he's been on a cruise ship for the past 3 years.
Yeah.
and it's an average of $70,000 annually for him to live
On a cruise
ship.
Entertainment, medical, it's all there.
Does that sound about accurate?
Well, I mean, I know several of these people.
Oh,
really?
So it is a real thing.
They're the guests that nobody likes because they don't spend money on anything, and they come out with their own water pitcher to the thing and they fill it even though they're not supposed to, and they go back to their room and they make friends with everybody. And the thing about a cruise ship is you get on board and you see all these happy faces who are, so excited to have you on board. What you turn that around, what they see is a dollar sign, and how much can we take from this person before they get off the ship? So if you come and you take up a bunch of someone's time without actually spending money, then you become a very annoying passenger.
Right. Yeah. Well, I get that. I mean, it's a business, right?
And I make that sound more cynical. There is very genuine people and who love working with guests and hospitality, but it is a very high pressure.
I mean, listen, I love cruising. I'm one of those vacationers that I want to spend all my money up front. You tell me how much it's going to cost, but when I get there, I want to spend any money. Why? Because I'll tell you why. And I know it's
Tell me why.
It's just a personal thing. Because the act of spending money while I'm there kills the vacation for me. Not kills it, but it's like I'm counting dollars in my head, whatever.
So you're one of those all-inclusive guys.
Yes. I don't care what it costs. $15,000 for the week, done. I'll write the check. While I'm there, I ain't got to worry about nothing.
See, I'm the exact opposite. That sounds like Megan, right? I'm the exact opposite. I don't want to do all-inclusive. I want to live where the locals live. I want to rent an Airbnb.
But you can do
I want to
that.
be at taco stands. You can't do that
Yes, you
all-inclusive.
can. Yes, you can. Because like when we go in Punta Cana, you don't have to stay on the resort. You can catch a cab and go. Now you have to pay for that.
Yeah, see, I don't want to stay. I don't want to be able to have I don't want to be in a gated community. I want to be.
Nah, see, I assume be pampered the whole time.
That's why the cruise industry is built for you. It's for the people who
It
want
is.
everything
That's
done
right.
for
That's
them. Everything laid out, unpack once. They don't
love
want
it.
any trouble.
I love it.
I still would have hit you for a $10,000 piece of jewelry, even though you said that beforehand.
I mean, I've been, and I didn't buy. I think I bought a pair of pictures. I don't even know if I bought the pictures. I think I just went and looked at and laughed at everybody else that took the pictures. Because when you get on or whatever, the one I was on, they took your picture, and then you could go in this gallery and go buy them or whatever.
If the boat sinks to the bottom of the ocean, there's
They know
someone down
who's
there to
on
take
there.
a picture
Yeah.
so that you can buy the commemorative disaster photo.
I would be like, if that went in the package, I don't want it.
That was me.
And there's someone in a costume that looks like a pirate skeleton down at the bottom.
I'm more than happy to pay extra for alcohol. Like at night, we'd be like, bottle of wine, whatever. Like I'd pay extra for that. But I don't know. And I think too, I like structured. Like I like the idea of every night dress up, go to dinner. We sat at the same table with the same people. We had a great. And I guess it would suck if you had like
Shoot me
crappy
now.
people. Nah, it's so
That's
much
that
fun.
hearty Midwestern, salt of the earth American that the cruise industry is built for. That is the majority of
Yeah.
Americans.
Just like
would
what
prefer
I-
a vacation like that.
no,
That's why cruising is so appealing.
I don't know that I prefer, but it's a lot of fun to me.
Put me in the alleys.
I'd
of-
rather eat a jean jacket.
Yeah, well, that's because you worked in it though, right?
put me in the back alley
Maybe
of
not.
Tamarindo and let me drink tequila where the locals.
I still
Yeah.
have never taken a single pleasure cruise that I wasn't working on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, and although I think about it now, though, I think, oh, wow, it's been a long time since I've been out at sea. It'd be nice to take a cruise.
Well, and if you're on the other side of that, don't you think it might be a little bit different experience?
No, because he can't. I'm going to speak freely here. I
You
don't
won't be
think
able to
you can't turn
erase
it off.
Yeah.
You're going to be like,
Can't erase what you know.
oh, Julie, what's up? How's work going?
I would definitely feel like I needed to be in the jewelry store because that's where I spent 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week for months at a
So
time.
now, back on your point, I've experienced both. So when I was younger, I went to Puerto Vallarta, and we stayed like as close to town. When we would go out at night, we'd go eat at like some dirt floor taco joint where it's like only locals in there. And I experienced all that. And all that was super nice. Like it was cool. But I've also, we went to Punta Cana a couple years ago. Stayed on a resort, all inclusive, had a butler, like the whole nine. And it just, something about it allows me to enjoy myself better versus me having to figure things out. And
Say, you live in a structured world. Give me the chaos.
that is true, though. That is the difference between me and you is that
Right.
your world every day is
Not structured.
not structured. Well, not only that, it's not,
Normal.
you're pampered.
I don't know if pampered.
Come on now.
I don't know if pampered would be the right word. But.
Nothing ever happens. There's no growth in a state of security. It's chaos that you grow. It's chaos where you
I agree with
create
that.
things. So
I agree with that.
Jared seeks the chaos because that's where the opportunity
Now,
comes. That's where the learning
give
is.
you
That's
that.
where the growth is.
I'll give you the other side of that though, because I'm the same way. Like my life is pure chaos, and if it's not, I don't feel something's wrong. But maybe that's why I like structure on vacations, because like I can get away from that chaos for like a week. I don't have to think about nothing. I don't have to do anything. Like, you know, so maybe that's the difference. I don't know.
I could see us take a vacation together.
That would be super fun anyway.
You'd be like, we got to be up at 6 o'clock. And I'm like,
No, it's not structured like that.
not military structured.
No, I'm just talking about like you make a reservation somewhere, you know, to eat dinner that night. And then, I don't know.
When booking a cruise, what should guests stay away from?
Stay away from?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't want to mention cruise lines or anything like that. So if somebody's trying to sell an all-inclusive package to Kyle, what are some of the things that you don't need that? You really don't need that.
I mean, I couldn't tell you. I've never booked a cruise. I probably wouldn't myself book one of the drink packages because you really have to be, you know, quite hammered all day and night to make that worthwhile, especially if you're getting the top shelf one. And I just don't see myself drinking that much all day, even though I do enjoy, fine whiskey here and there. But I probably wouldn't book that. But I mean, so different for everyone. So, I mean, there's so many different options.
Yeah.
So for example, booking excursions through the cruise line. They're probably going to cost you a little bit more than if you booked one locally online or something. But if something happens on that tour, the ship's going to leave you.
Yeah.
If you book one with the cruise line, they're not going to leave you. No man left behind.
So it's like insurance.
Yeah. So I mean, make the cruise what you want of it.
That's a good point.
More often, I get the question, "What is the best cruise line?" Who's the best cruise line to sail with? And it's just, well, what kind of experience you're looking for.
Depends on your age.
But in general, I mean, the answer is very surprising to a lot of people, and I always say it's Disney.
I heard that exact same thing when I was single.
Well,
somebody's like, "You got to go on a Disney cruise."
Well, and Disney they own their own like private ports, private islands.
Everybody has their own private island, because cruise lines are, like, for example, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, those are the same company.
Yeah.
Carnival, Princess, Holland America, these are the same company, and they share private islands. Disney has their own exclusive one, but I mean, they just understand hospitality, service better than anyone.
That's what they're in the. That's what they do.
There's a lot of kids on board.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, just to give you an example, when you walk onto a Disney ship and you're going to get ready to set sail, there's a tunnel of crew members there, and you walk up and they go, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Myers family is here," and then the whole ship erupts into clapping, and you walk through, and it's just a magical experience from the
They're
start.
really good at that anyway.
Downside, 2,000 kids,
and a 2.5 year wait. Like you have to book 2.5 years ahead of time in order. No,
I wouldn't say that.
I was looking. We were kind of looking at them for a little bit, and it seemed like the booking wait was way more than an average cruise.
Yeah. I wouldn't take one Disney, but if they ask who does the best job, I'd have to say Disney. But every cruise line has their pros and cons.
I had a buddy of mine said if you were single, that was the best cruise to take because there's a level just for single people. So it's the nightclubs, it's the no kids allowed zone, it's this, and this.
I think it'd be kind of weird to be signing on to a Disney cruise as a single dude. For real. You walk up to that beginning, and instead of the Myers family, it's just
like Jared Peterman.
Here's James. I don't think that would fly too well with the other
And
families.
there's not going to be that many single people in there either. Like, come on, man.
That's like me and my camper van.
No, like, so what I experienced, now, I don't want to talk.
I've never been on a cruise
line the whole time, but when we get into port, you could tell like the party boats from the family boats from the, and I what is it? Is it Carnival?
Yeah, Carnival's
I'm trying to think of the one that was like
cheap and
a
cheerful.
frat party. The whole thing, the boat looked like a frat house.
It very well could have been a Carnival cruise. That's probably the cruise I would take.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily the most luxurious. They don't have the best stuff going on, but you're going to have more interesting things for a person like me. We'll put it that way.
What's some other boats? Because Carnival doesn't ring a name. I'm trying to think of some other boats.
I mean, it's Carnival, Holland America, Princess, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity. Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Then you get like ones like Costa, which are more Mediterranean. But
what's the most beautiful, amazing port you've been to?
As far as just being jaw-droppingly stunning and beautiful, for me, probably be Santorini, the Greek Isles.
Yeah. See, my wife wants, it's on her bucket list to do Greece.
Yeah. I mean, to do the Greek Isles, definitely Santorini, Mykonos, but Santorini, I mean, you take your wife there, it's panty gravy for sure.
Yeah.
What's the worst port you've been to?
It's probably the most commercialized one, I would think.
You know, there's
Fort Lauderdale.
That's actually a port.
For other people?
No, literally, when I booked mine, it was like 5 ports, and I think Fort Lauderdale is one of them.
I don't think we can count turnaround ports like something like Whittier, Alaska is not a very interesting place to port to, but that's just where they leave from. But, I mean, everyone, when it comes to like the Caribbean islands, there's a lot of places that I would consider kind of, not that nice to visit, but they're all doing the best they can. I wouldn't like to come on and say this is a terrible place to go.
I think it's all in the eye of the beholder too, because some people, like you talk about, you want to be in the market. You want to be in the in the roots of whatever,
the heartbeat of the city.
One thing you'll find though, wherever you go, whether it's on board the ship or somewhere they go, there's going to be someone waiting to sell you something for sure.
Yeah,
it's
on a big ship like that, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's get into that for a minute. So you did 11 years on a cruise line. Did you do high-end jewelry all 11 years?
Well, it was kind of luxury in general. So it was mostly jewelry, things like diamonds and gemstones, gold, and also like Swiss watches, timepieces, that type of stuff. But depending on the port, you could be, promoting things like linens and alcohol and things like that.
What was your average ticket sale?
In a jewelry store or something like that. It's depending on whether I was promoting, because I started out promoting and talking about the places where people could shop. And those are stores that are paying for promotion, and they give kickbacks back to the cruise line that also trickle back to you as the promoter. So that there's such a wild range, because you have people who are buying things for $50 and you have people who will drop $500,000 on a diamond on a cruise.
They paid for the cruise.
Yeah.
They're going to buy jewelry for $500,000.
Because they feel like they're getting.
Yeah. And the more they spent
could have bought 50 cruises.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I was on my cruise, there was a place that was promoted. There was a jewelry diamond, blue diamond. I don't know what it was. But anyway, they're like, go there. It's the best, cheapest, whatever.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about for sure.
My thing is, I was so afraid of
getting scammed.
Yeah. Like, is this real jewelry? Like, I didn't even go in it, but.
Well, it's real. It's an interesting world that the customer sees a certain experience, but behind that facade, there's a very intense, very high pressure, sometimes very unsavory reality to that business. And I don't want to say it's not anything like blood diamonds or anything like that, but a lot of times the customers don't realize how aggressive and how strategic and how many different angles they're being attacked from a sales perspective, without getting into the nuts and bolts. But that being said, there are a lot of good people out there too who, they have customers who come back and see them year after year because they're like family. There's such a good experience to be had. You just have to be, you have to be smart.
I have like a love-hate relationship with diamonds because I just feel like.
Because you've bought so many.
And you can't return them for what you bought them for?
Yeah.
That could be a whole other podcast.
So anyway.
You stabbed me last week, so I'm stabbing you back.
Hey, that's the way this rolls, right? So, no, I think because my thing is with diamonds, and now I guess if you equate it to like a fine whiskey or, a good cigar or whatever, like something that's rare, has its own character, there'll only be one of that particular thing. I guess I get that. But when you talk about diamonds in the way of like, oh, you want the nicest looking possible diamond. Well, they can artificially make something that looks better than a diamond now. That's cheaper. Mm-hmm. So if it's really about how well it looks, then why are we buying these stones that are flawed?
Well, it's not even really about that. It's there's no intrinsic value to these things. That doesn't mean that they don't have a value and a purpose that they bring to people. But like, for example, someone who I've had customers who say, well, why would I want to buy this real diamond when I can buy this artificial one for half the price? And I said, well, you're married, right? Yeah. So, when you when you were going to propose to your wife, did you ask her whether she wanted a real diamond or a fake diamond?
Yeah,
I did not.
See,
well, and I guess in the way of diamonds when it comes to marriage, that's a different thing because unless they know, you're kind of hoodooing them, and that's not okay. But the way I look at it is like just on the bare level of what you're buying, how much you're paying for it. Like, for instance, I went to a fundraiser one time, and it was a jewelry store, whatever, that was kind of doing this promotion. They had this jar full of diamonds. They're all CZs, but one.
the real one is in there. I know someone who actually picked a real one once. But continue.
Oh, really? So one's a real one. And then you basically pay your $20 or whatever to be on the raffle, and you go in and you pick out one. And then they put it in a bag, they look at it, whatever, and then they tell you if it's real or not.
Well, when it comes to things like diamonds, and in full disclosure, one of the reasons why I left my industry is I really stopped, believing in my personal belief for value of this.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it didn't have value for other people.
Yeah.
I sold to people who really did have a lot of value from these. It meant a lot to them. But for me, I stopped believing in the value so much, so it made it more difficult for me to sell these items. But when it comes to purchasing something like a diamond, especially if you're talking about a gift between two people, and this is something that I would do in my sales trainings later on when I became a trainer and a coach and all of that stuff, is helping people understand that when a couple comes to the store and they buy, let's say, a diamond ring, they're not shopping for something, they're not buying something flashy and valuable or prestigious. What they're buying is a bridge from where they are now to where they want to be emotionally.
Yeah.
They're buying a bridge.
It's a symbol. It's more of a symbol than
You're talking about, especially when it comes to like a cruise. You've got two people who they've lived together for 40 years. He reads the paper in the morning. She makes the toast and scratches off the burn part. They have their coffee, and there's nothing exciting. So what do? They take a cruise to shake up their life, to feel some excitement. They buy this piece of jewelry, and it's a bridge from where they are now to where they want to be emotionally, and that's the value that it brings, and that is value.
I agree with that. I agree with that statement, along with the engagement ring. It's kind of the same thing, right? It means something, regardless of what the stone.
Yeah, but it's not an investment.
Yeah.
Some salespeople are going to tell you, well, you're investing in your future when you buy this. No, this is purely and simple. This is an emotional purchase, and it's a gesture.
Now, a timepiece might be a little different, though. That could be an investment, right?
If you got the right kind and you hold it long enough.
Well, and I guess it determines, or it matters where that timepiece goes. It's just like everything else. Real estate. Mm-hmm. Certain parts of the market excel, some parts, do better than others. Timepieces would be the same way. If you happen to buy the right timepiece and then its time comes, then it's going to be worth more versus if you buy something that.
And there's just a handful of companies I can think of on the timepiece.
It's all Patek Philippe. Of the top 10 watches ever sold at auction, they're all Patek Philippe except for one Rolex.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this, though. You say that. The watch game is a really big game, and I don't know that much about it, but there are a ton of really nice timepieces that have its own collector following. Now, when you talk about top dollar, which is what you're talking about, right? You say top 10, they're all the same.
It's when it comes to like Swiss watchmaking, it's all about the prestige of the house that makes it, whether they make their own movements in house, that type of thing.
Right.
So but typically those are.
See, I try not to go down that road because I love watches.
What you wearing right now?
Nothing. I've got this is the thing. Well, obviously
I'm confused
because even if I had a whole collection of watches. And I had a collection, right? Which I don't. I still wouldn't wear one here. It's one of those deals where it's game time. It's a game time watch for me. It's like you break it out when it's like game time.
I have two watches. One's like a QQ.
Yeah.
And it's a work watch. I can get dirty and go whatever. And then I got my tag.
Yeah.
And it's one or the other. So
well, you've seen my watches. I like them big and blangy. And
you rode up to the lake house like Flavor Flav on your wrist.
Yes.
You're like, what time is? Out.
That's what. But now it's me. I would much rather break those out, kind of like we talked about last week with the Jerry Rice thing and being tight for the game. Yep. To me, that's what a watch does.
Pour myself a little more bourbon here.
Absolutely.
What are you drinking? What are you pouring there?
Little Four Roses
from the guest
shelf,
the guest reserve.
Shelf.
Much appreciated.
Yeah. I've got some Blantons I need to bring and stick over there for you.
Yeah. So when I told Kyle I wanted to bring you on, one of the things we were going to talk about was the art of sales, right? So to have that much time in the industry. The industry found value in you enough to bring you on for corporate training, some video work.
Yeah, I mean,
just about every angle of sales, and in this particular industry, there is. But sales is not limited to industry. Is what I love about sales.
But hold on, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about.
So we'll talk about the art of sales right after this.
Are you looking for the perfect vacation spot for your next adventure? Whether it's hiking beautiful waterfalls, mountain biking Stump House Park, wake surfing on Lake Kiwi, or jamming at your favorite concert, Megan Ketterman with Oconee Hospitality has beautiful homes available for short-term rental in Oconee County, South Carolina. Contact Megan today to book your next vacation stay at www.oconeehospitality.com. Are you looking to make Lake Kiwi your destination? Work with local licensed expert Rhea Land Smith, your certified resort and second home specialist at Lake Kiwi Real Estate. Servicing buyers and sellers since 2013, Rhea is your local expert helping you navigate the real estate waters of Kiwi. Let Rhea make your life a vacation. Call 864-710-9547. And remember, Land is her middle name.
Okay, we're back with James Myers. James, again, I want to thank you for taking the time out to be here with us.
Trust me, I have absolutely nothing else to do. I'm retired.
Perfect. I
love being here.
I see this being a recurring guest for sure, because I don't think we're going to get into everything in this episode.
Keep this Four Roses around. I'll be back.
Yeah. Well, we know his vice.
We'll do. Yeah. Listen, I love some bourbon and whiskey. If it wasn't today, when you return, I'll bring a couple. We can drink some of Jared's.
And we should polish the bottle beforehand and see what kind of product.
We'll drink some whiskey.
Sure. So we left before the break talking about the art of sales. So I want to get into some of this. I don't want to make a sales training, but what is if somebody is in sales now, what is your number one advice to them?
I would say to understand the importance that emotions play in the sales process, and being able to incorporate that into your selling.
Yeah.
To be able to create those emotions, to be able to help your customer, whatever it is you're selling, to visualize that ownership, to understand the emotional benefit. And I think a lot of salespeople, you talk about features and benefits, right? Sales 101, we know that you can't just throw out a feature without a benefit. That's just wasted words to say that, right. This house has 3 bedrooms, right? What's the benefit? Oh, well, now you can have 3 bedrooms for your kids. But we have to get deeper and deeper with our benefits until we hit what I call emotional gold. Yeah. Keep digging until you hit emotional gold.
It's the breaking point.
Yeah, well, it's the point where now you've triggered something, you've touched the right nerve in your customer.
Right.
And so, for example, Diet Coke. You got a can of Diet Coke. What is the feature of Diet Coke? That's the question.
0 calories.
0 calories. So what's the benefit of 0 calories?
You lose weight.
So
supposedly
ostensibly,
it's 0 calories.
Let's say it does. Let's say what it does. It does what it does, right? Yeah. So the idea is, okay, you can drink this soda and you're not gonna gain weight. It somehow plays a part into your weight fitness goals, yeah. Right? But we have to keep that's not at the level yet. We need to keep digging until we go further. So yes, though it's 0 calories. You're not going to gain weight when you drink it, which means it's going to help you get to a place where you look in the mirror and you love the body that you have.
Gotcha. You got to hit that.
And then you got to go even further. Why are you drinking Diet Coke? So it doesn't have any calories. You're going to be able to look in the mirror and love the body you have. And when you go to that Christmas office party, that bitch Becky is going to be so pissed, and your ex John is going to eat his heart out.
That's right. So you sold them at that point.
You have to keep digging.
That's a good, listen, that's great, because I would have never thought that far.
Well, it's like all the beer commercials, and I think in the late 80s, it was the prime. If you were in a bikini and had a beer, if you drank that beer, you'd get that girl in the bikini.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You got to sell them the end product that they're looking for.
You're right.
She's looking to make her ex John eat his heart out when he sees her at that company. So don't sell her on all these 0 calorie. Don't make her do the work. Sell her the end product. Don't say, here's a book with 27 ways that are going to help you to kick your cigarette habit. Stop smoking now. That was one of the most successful online ebook campaigns ever. Simple. Stop smoking now. Sell the end result, right?
So, yeah. But so how do we need to sell the podcast? We need some bikinis and
And listen now.
Listen now.
Listen now.
And then have in the background have some.
No, that's late 80s.
You got to keep digging till you find that emotional gold. Like, for example, if you're a realtor, what do you sell?
Real estate.
Yeah, live here now.
Do you sell? Do you sell houses or do you sell homes?
No, you
sell homes.
You sell the better quality of life.
You sell memories.
A house. Yeah. A house is not 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms with a 2-car garage.
Yeah, that just makes it
with a place that
that just makes it acceptable.
Well, what you're really selling as a realtor is you're selling a place where your kids will grow up on that swing in the backyard, where you're flipping steaks on the grill in the summer, where you cuddle up at night on the couch and watch Netflix and eat popcorn, where you grow old together on the front porch, hand in hand. That's what you're selling as a realtor.
You're right.
You're not selling a house. You're selling a home.
So do you use that philosophy on your Airbnbs?
Well, I do create the fantasy.
Yeah. Listen, on an Airbnb especially, the fantasy's important.
Well, at least the formula that I've found for me, and I'm no expert on Airbnb. I think I've gotten lucky in a lot of ways. But the formula that I see is either you can be at the destination and offer a competitive place to stay that's pretty nice, or you can be a destination in itself where people come for that experience. Yeah. And I think mine falls into that category.
I'm with you on the second because me and my wife have looked at...
Either one works, but that's...
I do agree. You can just have a place to stay, but what is super exciting to me is the destination. And I think partly because you can create a destination anywhere. You know, if you happen to have a view or if you happen to have some water, those are great destinations.
You bet.
Well, if you go to my listing, there's a reason why the first picture that you see is the bathroom with the big window and the tub and a glass of wine and a candle.
That's the destination.
I'm creating the fantasy. Yeah. What I'm allowing the person looking at that listing to do is picture themselves there. Mm-hmm. And visualization is halfway to ownership. That's why if you go to an art auction and they whip out this painting and they start talking, you'll notice a good art auctioneer will say questions like, imagine where you would hang this in your house? Yeah. Where would you put something like this? All of a sudden they're seeing it above their fireplace. Yeah. That's halfway to ownership.
It's called mental ownership.
Yeah. So for those listening and watching, where can they find your Airbnb?
On Airbnb.com.
Like what kind of, what do they search for? Good luck. Have fun trying to find it. I mean, just search container home.
If you search in Walhalla with open dates, it's usually the first couple of listings that pop up.
Okay.
After ours.
Yeah. Cool.
I don't want to be this a plug for my place, but they're not hard to find, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We want you to plug your place. You're spending time with us. Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about, we're getting back into sales. What's the best sales movie you've ever seen? And don't tell me Glengarry Glen Ross.
It's got to be Glengarry Glen Ross.
I've never even watched that.
So some of the things that Glengarry taught us was...
Put that coffee down.
Coffee's for closers.
Yeah. I thought that was a Cardone thing.
Where do you think Grant got it from?
Oh, okay. All right. See, I'm learning.
Grant Cardone has picked up a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So another one would be ABC.
Yeah.
Always be closing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What's another one?
Well, there's AIDA, but that one usually doesn't get remembered. AIDA, attention, interest, decision, action. But that was just the finest 8 moments of Alec Baldwin's career for sure, hands down.
Yeah.
But I just love that one so much because it strikes a chord with me because of how intense and high pressure my industry was. It was basically like that same concept. First prize is a Cadillac Eldorado. Second prize, set of steak knives. Yeah. Third prize is you're fired. Yeah. Like that was pretty much the mentality.
You got to be number 1 or 2, and number 2 ain't that good.
Yeah, but I don't have any leads.
Yeah. Well, the leads are weak. You're weak. That's right. That's exactly how my industry was. So that's very near and dear movie to my. If you haven't, you're listening, you haven't seen Glengarry Glen Ross. It is a cinematic.
I'll need to watch that.
Yeah. So Boiler Room with Vin Diesel and Giovanni Ribisi is probably my top one. I made most of my sales team watch that movie. Take it home and watch it.
Yeah.
Tons of good content there. And they referenced Wall Street, who most people will tell you with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah.
The first one. Most people will tell you that's the ultimate sales movie.
Wall Street. Is that the one where, that's not Charlie Sheen. What's the one where dudes like snorting coke out of girls' crack?
That's Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay. All right. So go ahead.
Which I wouldn't recommend. I mean, it's
not a sales. It's not a sales movie.
It's not a sales movie at all. But a movie in itself for sure. But I think it's important to pick up training. Like you thought it was a Cardone thing. Cardone got it from somewhere else.
Well, now I will tell you this. Back to my boy Cardone because I like some Cardone.
Yeah.
He's made 90% of his money in real estate. He just funded it initially with sales. So he might be the sales guy to a lot of people, but he's a real estate guy to me, man.
I remembered him in the early 2000s before he got bought into real estate.
Right. That money he made, he just rolled it over into real estate. And I think he still kind of does the sales thing, but I think you see Cardone turn into like a real estate mogul, not a sales guy.
Well, for a guy who spends $1 million a month
on advertising,
in advertising himself, how do you not become the expert in the room? For one, if you've got $1 million a month to spend on advertising.
When you own a couple hundred, well, maybe not, I'm not going to say 100. In the billions.
A lot of real estate.
In the billions of dollars of real estate down in like Miami and like the super high end areas, it's hard not to be the real estate guy, even though you used to watch videos of him.
And he's got to be a good closer too. He's got to be a sales guy.
Well,
true.
Right? Perception is everything. If you have,
you're right.
If you own, I'm the number one sales closer in the world.com, people will assume that you're the number one sales closer in the world. So that, that's a lot of him, in my opinion.
I think that's where Jordan Belfort, when he was coming to the end, that was the last thing he tried to do. He lands on the building with a helicopter and be like, hey, if you want to make the money I've got, and what does he have? Fancy cars and pretty girls.
Yeah.
If you want to pay $19.99 for my book.
Yeah. See, and I agree with you on the Cardone side. Like, you like perception's everything. If you perceive that he's the best sales, what I think's happening with him though is he doesn't even want to be in sales necessarily in that aspect.
I
think he probably uses that business just to fund his real estate deals, and now he wants to be a real estate guy.
I disagree because I think, and I love Grant, right?
Yeah,
Cardone has taught me a lot of people a lot. But he also likes to see himself.
Oh yeah, well
right?
listen,
he doesn't have
he's
to
a big
promote
personality.
anything.
There are a lot of guys out there that own as much real estate as he does. You don't even know about. You never heard of them.
No, that's right.
But
more.
It's done him well, or more. Mm-hmm. But it's done him well. The way that he's played himself.
I don't know. I have a rule where I don't take advice from people that I wouldn't want their results. I look at his life. It's not for me. I wouldn't even want his life, so I wouldn't listen to him.
You don't like his life?
What am I going to do with that?
Well,
yeah,
it sounds like a lot of stress. It sounds like a lot of notoriety. Like I don't want people
let's talk about
a lot of employees.
I want to be obscure. I want to be anonymous in the woods in my van in a very non-creepy way.
Let's talk about that because in the break we touched on what would you call it? Our goals. We kind of touched on what we're after. And it was very much that for you. So let's talk about that because that's a super interesting subject to me. Me and you've talked about this
all the time.
You talked about I just want to have enough. Me and my wife talk about this all the time. She thinks I want to be like super multi-million-dollar man, and I'm like, no, that's not really me. My drive might say that, but my drive is just to try to accomplish, for us to be able to do what we want. So let's talk a little more about.
I think to look at it from a point of view of I don't need that much is almost a little too rudimentary. It's really understanding what are your values in life. What do you want to get out of life? What actually brings you joy and value, and what does it take to get there?
Yeah.
And for me, I had a wonderful career with a great company. Like in my last 5 years or so in the industry, and I was surrounded by excellence. I was surrounded by people who were incredible mentors. But I started to feel that my values weren't aligned because, I looked at them and I asked the question, who would I trade lives with here? All the way up to the owner of the company who
what I want to be that guy. And you're like, no,
he did like $350 million in sales that last year I was there. But I looked at his life versus mine, and there's nothing wrong with his life, but lived in New York, had many kids, had many employees to worry about, had lots of stress, was constantly worried about whether or not people were screwing him over, stuff like that. And it looked like a very I wouldn't want to trade the position. I had a wonderful time just traveling around in my camper van and seeing the sights and living a life of solitude. It doesn't take that much.
So that's a really good point because I think a lot of people, especially in our day and age, they see the Instagram people, they see the whoever, right? You name it. And they think that they want that. But a lot of times they don't realize what's underneath all that. It's like the iceberg thing. It's like you see this much.
The duck.
There's that much under it.
You see the duck, the beautiful duck above water. You don't see his feet paddling like hell to keep him up there.
Yes. And wishing that he wasn't there. Mm-hmm. But he's already got himself into this.
Mm-hmm. I've worked with, really, really ultra wealthy people, probably some people that this Cardone guy he probably gets their mail for them. Like you're talking ultra wealthy people. And I've seen all that whole spectrum from just doing okay to multi-billionaires and everywhere in between.
Right.
And I've sold them jewelry and I've talked to them. I've gotten to know them as people. And, it's not the old saying, money doesn't buy happiness. But I certainly never found a correlation between the two.
Yeah.
I saw very happy, wealthy people, and I saw very miserable, wealthy people. But at the end of the day, it seemed like the pattern that I was finding is whether or not they were living a life in line with what brought value to their life.
I see
and
that.
Were they pursuing something else, whether they thought they were supposed to, or whether they thought that's the ultimate ideal, and not actually in line with what brings them value. And that's where I saw the biggest difference.
Yeah. Well, you probably saw like the guy that was worth $10 million was horribly dissatisfied with his life. But the guy that could have been worth $100 million, but he was only worth $10 million, was super happy because he gave up a lot. He gave up the other $90 million to live the life he wanted, even though he was still well off, much happier guy. And that's kind of what you're talking about. Like, bring your expectations down. I don't think necessarily the amount of money you make can determine that, because you can have somebody that's super wealthy that's super happy, but that's because he gave up what he could really have done.
Well, I mean,
what if I told you that it wasn't up to them?
Well, not
Like what I mean by that is, put Mark Cuban in Walhalla, and he is going to be bored. His mind will make him money just because he has to constantly be growing, learning, and executing.
Yeah.
Like
well,
he can't not do it. He doesn't know how not to.
That's me.
Some people's values might be that I'm not going to be happy in life unless I have my own yacht, and I love the stress of it all, and they won't be happy in it. But you better get cracking.
I don't think it's a yacht thing. My thing is, I have a hard time being satisfied if I'm not moving. Mm-hmm. I could literally move my whole life and not make a dime, and I would be happy. Mm-hmm. But the moving that I'm after is that game or that challenge of business, right? And at some point, if it, in the past, it's paid off for me in certain ways, right? But if it wouldn't have, I would have been fine with that. I would just done the next thing. Like, those challenges to me are fun. That's what keeps me kind of, me and you agree on some things as far as like just living the life. How much do you need to do what you want to do? Making your values be aligned. But I have to be moving in some way. Now, that could be like, my challenge could be to see X amount of places in the United States in the next year.
Yeah, it's different for everybody.
It could, no, I got to have a challenge, though, I think, is what it comes down to me.
Okay.
Build a business or build a portfolio of sites, whatever. Like, it could be.
I can take that.
Yeah.
Well, the person's got to have something to do, that's for sure.
I can't just sit around.
Yeah. So somebody interviewed the guy from Papa John's. I think I brought this up in another podcast. And he was like, "What are you doing now?" He's like, "Well, I'm learning how to type, like the correct way." And I'm like, "What? Like, you don't know how to type?" He's like, "Not the correct way." And he's like, "Well, you don't need to type. Why are you doing that?"
Home keys and everything.
He wants to constantly be learning.
Yeah.
Same reason I committed to get my pilot's license.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to do that.
It's the same reason.
Not that I need to.
No, but it's the same reason you do everything you do. It's the same reason you go dove or pheasant hunting. It's the same reason you go do cattle stuff. It's the same reason you do everything you do, is because you want to broaden that horizon, learn new things.
No, I love learning. Now,
we just got to get you on the NFTs. And
wait, are you into crypto?
Any education on crypto at all?
I mean, I was going to look into it, but then I just kept living my life instead.
That's 90% of the world right now.
I have another rule, and it's just my rule, because some people have done very well investing in things like this, and in investing in the stock market. I don't invest in things that I can't control.
Understand.
No.
That too.
That
hey,
too.
Amen, brother.
That's
I'm
absolutely.
with you.
But here's the thing. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what if I invest in myself, I know I've got no one else to blame but me. You can put money in the stock market. It's like, to me, that's roulette.
I agree.
There could be a scandal with the CEO, and all of a sudden, boom, it's out of your control. Some people do very well with it. I'm not saying don't ever do it, because I know many people.
Yep.
Bobby, my brother's done very well with it.
Very well.
But I never invest in that stuff, because I found a much better return when I invest in myself.
I agree with that 100%.
100%.
It's kind of like we've talked about voting. Do you vote?
I do.
Because you have no control after that vote. You realize that? We've talked about it before.
It's a little bit different.
It is a little bit different. I'm not saying don't do it.
That's just totally different.
I'm just saying, like,
Let me ask you this, James. I meant to ask Rabbit the same question. I know you're a little bit older than this now, but if you were 23,
knowing what you know now,
what would you tell your 23-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
Whew, my 23-year-old self. But here's the thing. When you go back to my 23-year-old self, I was actually, that's when I was running my mother's retail store after she passed away down in the Florida Keys. So I was already in a much different world than most 23-year-olds.
Right.
I had employees, I had a business, I had property on the highway that I was running with my brother Bill. So I think I missed out on that 23-year-old part.
yeah. But if that, even as educated as you were at 23,
Then,
yeah, if you could give yourself some advice that would that you feel like would have leveled you up, what would that have been?
Don't fall in love so easily all the time. It's been like 15 of them. Hey, and that gets expensive.
Diamonds? We're talking diamonds again?
Yeah, because there were so many turning points in my life where there was a fork in the road, and it was like, do you want to go for the secure route and look for climb that
Ladder.
that life escalator that says this is where you go in life. And this
You're
is how
supposed to do this.
Or the fork that says F that and
Do you.
give them the finger and just keep on, being
you.
I've
Yeah.
always chosen that route, but I've always been a sucker for love. And
You
that's
get
definitely gotten
sidetracked
me
a
in
little
trouble.
bit. Hey, listen, we meet in the same boat, brother.
Financially, I mean, it's from that perspective. I don't know. I lost a lot of money on that.
See, my
business sale
thing
in
is-
keys, and but it's weird because I had a note that when I sold that business, I was owner financing that sale, and I was so young and inexperienced. I ended up in a second position mortgage somehow. Everything crashed, and I ended up losing out on an $800,000 note. For a lot of people, that's their life would have been at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was set for life, and I lost all of that. But it ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me, because if that never happened, I would have never went out into the cruise industry, which I've gotten far more value and experience out of that.
That's right.
Than I would have otherwise.
You wouldn't have ended up right here in Walla, South Carolina.
Yeah.
if you're not failing, you're not learning.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. That's a bad fail. I mean, not a bad fail, but like
20 years ago,
man,
that
I
was a massive
would hate to minimize.
fail.
My thing is with any kind of risk, right? Because you're talking about investing a minute ago, crypto, business, whatever, and you say I don't do it because I like to invest in myself, which I 100% agree with. But that doesn't mean that I don't like to try to find those risky investments that have way more upside than downside. If you can control the risk, there's an advantage to that. For instance, if you could invest in something and it was so minimal that even if you lost everything, it wouldn't matter that much, but the upside was exponential, you might look at that and be like, I'm all about investing back in myself, but man, that's a pretty good.
That's exactly what we said a few episodes ago, right? Well, if you've got 100,000 to lose, do it.
Yeah. But that's different than if you. Yes, it is. Because hold on, if you got 100,000 to lose, then do it. That's only like one-ended. Because the investments I want are like, if you got a couple 100,000 to lose, fine. The upside on this though is $6 billion. That changes it. You're risking 100,000 for $6 billion.
You sound like my Korean mother who loved to gamble, though.
But hold on. But what I wouldn't want to invest in is
That sounds like a gambler trying to justify.
You're right.
But the genes.
But hold on. It is.
You put the token on number 4, and if number 4, then I get 4 times
Yes.
the payout. Like no,
But hold on. You're right.
I'm sorry,
No,
Mom.
listen.
Like that.
You're absolutely right. I'm not going to say that it's not gambling because everything's a gamble. But what you want to do is you want to do those gambles that have more upside than downside. So for instance,
absolutely.
For instance, if it's like put $100 on this token and you win $100, then that's not a good bet that I want to make. But it's put $100 on this and you can win
It's blackjack.
150,000 times your money, then yes, I'm down.
It's
Let's
30
try it.
And
Third
genuinely,
blackjack.
how many opportunities are there for that, though? Let's get serious. I mean,
Roulette, 30-31.
No, roulette, any kind of gambling in a casino, I don't advise doing because none of that stuff works out for you.
That is fun.
What I'm talking about is just risk. So, for instance, let's talk crypto. This will be an easy deal.
Which my brother is very big into, so I know a little bit because he posts a lot about.
So,
Bobby?
Bill.
So let's talk crypto. So if you could invest, it's going to take education. Like I'm not just saying go blindly, just throw money at it, right? Educate yourself. Feel like look into things, and you have to feel like this is an actual technology that's going to be the future, whatever that might be. Whether it's money, it's contracts, whatever it is, whatever the technology you see in crypto. Make sure you understand it. All right. Now, say you can invest $1,000 in that, and it has the chance of 1,000x. That's a pretty good bet if you believe
Has the chance,
but it doesn't matter. You're risking.
So you're saying there's a chance,
but it doesn't matter. This is
I read you.
This is what I'm saying. Where else can you take $1,000 and it could
I'm with you.
1,000x?
I get it. And
Right.
we're seeing it. We're
The
seeing
risk.
it grow.
What I'm saying is the upside is way bigger than the downside. Where else can you do that?
Start a business. I mean, that's how most
It's
wealthy
not-
people get wealthy. I mean, you start a business, you put in this much money, and all of a sudden you've got 1,000 franchises around the country.
But I also and I agree with
He's
that.
taking the hard work aspect out of it.
No,
though.
I'm not even taking the hard
I
work.
don't believe
aspect.
in the easy lunch. And there's another investing rule that I go by, and it's not for everybody, but it's always done me well. And it's when you feel like, ooh, there's an opportunity here, and if I don't act quickly, I'm going to miss out. It's
Something's
already
wrong.
too late.
Something's
it's
wrong,
already
yeah.
too late.
Right, and I think it's still early. I don't know anybody that's in crypto but me. You have crypto?
I was
you have
gifted
crypto? Do you have no? I don't. So it's still super early. And everybody talks about it.
What'd you pay for your first Bitcoin? What'd you pay for it?
$700.
What's it worth now? The first one, or what is
$22,000.
Yeah.
It was worth 60 at one point.
I don't want to turn this into a crypto conversation.
No, I don't want to because my thing is I don't want to try to sell people on crypto. It'll play its way. The great thing about this is we're filming it, we're recording it. We can come back and look at this one day.
That's
it doesn't
exactly
matter.
right.
I'm not going to try to sell people because I don't want people to I've had local folks talk to me about stuff, and I'm like, listen, I don't want to tell you to do something because I don't know how it's going to end up. Right? I don't want you to do this because it's going to come back on me.
You know why I didn't
Do your research.
You know why I didn't get it when you were telling me that? Because you didn't sell me the dream.
I'm not going to say the dream though because I don't
do the fantasy.
When the dream becomes a nightmare, I don't want you to come back to me. That's the main thing.
It's not that I don't believe in crypto. It's just I have that feeling in my gut that says, "Ooh, if you don't get on board, you're going to miss out." So that's why I know it's too late for me.
If it's not for everybody either.
Yeah.
Right? Art is not for everybody.
Well, so you think it's too late?
Well, that's just by applying the rule that I live by in investing.
Yeah.
For him personally.
So you personally feel like it's too
If
late?
I feel like I'm going to miss the opportunity if I don't act quick,
Yeah.
then I don't invest because I feel that that's too late.
Yeah, that's
already.
not a bad deal.
What is it? Warren Buffett, first come the innovators, then come the imitators, then come the
doubt.
idiots.
That's
and I'm not an innovator. Sometimes I imitate, but
Yeah.
usually I'm an idiot.
So, I think crypto has a weird deal because it's such newsworthy that it feels like it's late. But when you actually get down to the brass tacks of actually who is invested in which I'm not a Bitcoin guy anyway. But when you get down to the brass tacks of who actually owns it, there's very few.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 21 million Bitcoin total. There's 19 million in circulation right now. There are more millionaires. There are like 10 times more millionaires on this planet than there are Bitcoin. So if every single one of those people wanted one, they couldn't have one. What does that tell you?
I mean, but it's not a tangible thing. It's not.
But nothing's tangible. No, hold on. No, seriously.
I disagree. 100%.
Hold on. When you pay something with your credit card, do you touch that money as it flows through the card?
Yeah, it's a metal Amex.
No. Well, I mean, hell, if you want to do that, I got a card that spends Bitcoin. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it doesn't have
thing.
to be tangible, I guess is my point.
Everybody wants a foot rub for me, but they're not going to be able to get that either.
Truth.
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, I've heard that argument for Bitcoin, but my brain is too simple to calculate how that turns into an opportunity for me.
Kyle's passionate about, not just passionate, he's well educated. One in my circle, certainly the most educated person about it. And not that it's over my head, probably more of me just isn't interested right now.
Well, let me put it in different terms. Let's go this route. So what do you, okay, if Bitcoin or crypto or whatever is not, you don't get it. I understand you're not interested in it, whatever. What do you use to retain value right now?
I was never one for retaining value. I spend pretty foolishly.
But you can't do that forever, right? You have to retain value somehow.
I am the owner of a vasectomy. I think I can be pretty irresponsible with spending for the rest of my life.
Cheers to you.
I mean, I think sometimes people give me too much credit. They think that I have like a whole plan and like I'm good with money. I'm terrible with money.
Yeah.
My goodness, I'm so bad with money. But I learned how to use other people's instead of mine, and that's where I've been successful.
Well, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
So we were talking about earlier, like you just need enough to be sustainable. You're not trying to like take over the world. You just need enough to be sustainable, right?
It's like I don't have to worry about my future generation and setting them up. Like
I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about you. You got another 40 years in you, probably.
If it's, I hope not. But if it's just me, I know I can always take care of myself.
Yeah.
It's never too late to get a job. It's never too late to work 9 to 5. I can always go back to that.
He's really good at sales.
I'd rather do the things that I like and that I enjoy and live the life that I want to live now while my knees still work, while my hips still work.
Right.
And worry about the future. I've always been good at kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
And then figuring out there. And then let this be a PSA. That is not my financial advice for you listening. Right. I do not advise you to do that, but it's always worked out for me pretty well. And I've never considered what my future investment, what are you going to do when you get old? All of those. It's the same thing. Like when people are like, well, you don't want kids? Like who's going to take care of you when you get old? Like I'm going to do it. I go, what happens when you can't do that? I'm like, you don't want to know the answer. Like,
they'll let the government take care of me.
Yeah, I worry about those things when they come, which is not a solution for everybody, especially if you got a family and stuff like that. Right. You got to be more careful. But I'm definitely not. I don't think about where do I retain my wealth. I probably stuff it in a G-string on a stage.
Oh. So I mean, your Airbnb is a part of that, right? It's like a ways of kind of maintaining your ways of travel or whatnot, right?
I consider it my means to not have to go back to work for the man, and that could fall apart at any moment. Like when people say financial freedom, to me that's not. I think the traditional definition is once your passive income exceeds your monthly expenses. That's not what it means to me. Financial freedom means knowing that you can make money no matter what happens, because that could all fall apart tomorrow. That can all be taken away. Right. Anything could be taken away from you. Can you make money still? That is the only true financial freedom in my mind, and I know that I have that ability.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, the ability, the skills is the only thing that can't be taken from you.
Yeah, but right now, the Airbnb thing is working better than I had anticipated.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess back, because we kind of got off track a little bit, back to like what you originally, we were talking about life and what matters to you as far as like building a life that's not just about money or whatever. Like, let's get back to that. So, I mean, you've got a couple Airbnbs. That's in an effort to kind of facilitate your life currently, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, I'm really looking forward to this weather cooling down a bit.
Yeah.
Right now it's August. It's hot. I'm one of those people that gets really depressed in the summer. It's too hot to do anything that I love. So I'm looking forward to going and taking like a 3-day hike down the Foothills Trail. Like that's something that brings a lot of value to my life. I like to constantly be on the move. I've got the camper van, as people know around here. And I've been to all 50 states. Like I like to do things like that. I like adventure. I like changing the scenery. The experiences are what bring value to my life. Yeah. As opposed to stuff, as cliche as that sounds.
Yeah, no, listen, I get it. I watch, the conversion van. And I watch all kinds of YouTube because I'm like, these people build a schoolie and they put their family in it and they take off. And I'm like, man, that would be so cool.
When does that trend end?
I don't think it ever does. I think what ends, though, maybe is the popularity of it. I think there'll always be people that do that.
I think they were doing it since the Grateful Dead started, right?
Yeah,
the original van lifers.
Living in vans since the Dead were touring.
The vans are awfully nice now. Like, I look at some of them,
a little bit different than the microbus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as they let us keep parking places for free.
Yeah.
What do they call that? BLM land or something?
Bureau of Land Management, yeah. BLM, National Forests are good, but, so is a good old Cracker Barrel, comes handy in a pinch.
Yeah. Well, that's true. And if you're incognito, like a van or you can Walmart, anywhere you can.
I wouldn't park it outside of a playground. That might get you in some trouble.
No free candy.
I did that accidentally once in California. You don't want to sleep in your van outside of the
your
playground.
van, to be fair, your van is a Mercedes, right?
No.
it's not?
That's my brother's. Yeah, I
there
have the
you
poor
go.
man's Sprinter, which is a Ram ProMaster
There you
chassis.
go.
But yeah.
There you go. Still not
Yeah.
a cheap
No.
van.
Yeah.
But
Well,
a van
cool.
is a van.
Well,
True.
cool.
Listen,
Rolling probable cause.
and I actually think that'll be some experiences that I.
Sorry, that was a late funny.
There's a sticker on the second step when you walk into the van. It says, "Beyond this step constitutes consent."
Yes. Yeah. Don't go any further.
That's a joke, by the way. That sticker's definitely not there.
It really is. But
This has been fun.
Yeah.
This has been look.
time.
We can't wait to have you on again.
we got a lot to talk about still. We're gonna have to.
We
have
could make this go on for hours and hours, but we appreciate your time today, James Myers.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And if y'all are looking for a really cool Airbnb, you can visit loftsovermain.com.
And for an even cooler one,
No,
is
you're
mine.
supposed to say Oconee Hospitality.
or oconeyhospitality.com. There's super cool ones.
They are our
that
sponsor.
Megan offers. And or you can go to James's, and I think it is called
there's two. One is called the Valhalla Sky Suite, homage
Valhalla.
to Walhalla, and the other is the Southern Cross.
It's like Valhalla from like.
Vikings.
I was thinking like. What's his name that sang about it? Fly down over Valhalla.
Oh, Tom Petty.
Yeah. See.
That's
There's a
That's
song
Free
that's
Falling.
not Valhalla.
Free Falling,
I
yeah.
don't think that is Valhalla.
I think
It is
I
Valhalla.
think that's like some kind of crummy bar in California. He was singing.
Maybe so, but I took it as the land of the gods. So,
Good enough.
all right, good deal.
All right. That ends episode number 8.
Yeah,
All right. Stay tuned.
if you say.
Next week's going to be great. That's it. Thanks, James.